As more buses of illegal immigrants arrive in Democrat-run cities, their leaders are melting down. After Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot sent a group of migrants to a suburb, the mayor of that community says he is, quote, not happy, unquote. Listen.
So wait, they're upset that the migrants are getting bused to their sanctuary cities, and their solution is to bust them out? Seems a little hypocritical.
Very, very poor communications, especially if this originated in the city, where the mayor there criticized the governor of Texas for not, telling her in advance and giving her the courtesy, which she fully deserved, and I get what she was saying, but she just did it to me.
Let me get this straight. Lori Lightfoot, Chicago, Muriel Bowser,
but
Washington,
it's okay,
Eric
right?
Adams here in New York City. Sean, they appear to be taking the sanctuary out of sanctuary cities.
They really are, and I think it's fascinating where you had Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, who's like, listen, you're a racist, Abbott. You're an unchristian man by busing people to my city.
Yeah.
But then what does she do? She buses the same people to the outside the city limits into someone else's community. I'm so sick of these hypocrites. Just let's be honest, let's be truthful and go, listen, this is not Abbott's fault. This is not an Arizona problem. This is a Joe Biden problem. Joe.
Exactly. Joe Biden created this problem. It's not the governor of Texas's fault. It's Joe Biden's fault. And it's funny because these Democratic-run states have the worst homelessness problems in the country. You look at any blue state, and that's where the highest densities of homeless are. You go to any blue state, and they have the most expensive housing. You go to any blue state, they have the most single-family homes instead of high-density apartment buildings. You go to most blue states, and their school systems are divided up, so the school systems that have the highest income residents, their money goes right back into that school system instead of to the state to be equally distributed to all the schools. So what that means is the children that are the worst off are afforded the least opportunities to try and improve themselves. But they're progressive. Don't forget that. The hypocrisy it's astounding.
Stop the border flow, build the wall, and, we'll all be happy.
Alicia, imagine being a mayor of a Texas town that isn't the size of Chicago, New York, or Washington, and then you're absorbing infinitely more illegal immigrants at this point, and yet you see these mayors complaining. How would you react?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is these mayors are experiencing a fraction of the frustration and problems that these southern border mayors are dealing with. They're very frustrated, and
Exactly. Like, why are you complaining? You're sanctuary city. You wanted this. This is what you wanted. Like, this is your chance to step up and show us what a sanctuary city is supposed to do. What do? You bust them out.
And it's on both sides of the aisle. They don't feel like they're being heard by the Biden administration. They haven't seen the vice president show up to do any sort of help whatsoever. I thought it was interesting that Mayor Lightfoot expressed frustration that there at least could have been some sort of cooperation and coordination. Yeah. She said this with these governors of Texas and Arizona. Call me crazy. I don't know how she thought that they would actually believe that there would be some sort of cooperation or coordination with her.
Amazing, Alicia. Yeah. The Washington, D.C. mayor, Muriel Bowser, well, she thinks this is a public emergency.
Regardless of the federal...
Well, maybe the Biden administration will listen, since they won't listen to the Republicans and they won't listen to these border states that have been screaming that there's a crisis. Maybe they'll listen to their own Democratic Party. It's sad that the problem has to be exacerbated so bad before action will be taken.
Response, which I think has been lacking in some respects, that the District of Columbia would continue to work with our partners to advance what we need and to make sure that our systems in DC are not broken by a crisis that is certainly not of our making.
LT, isn't it they're making, though, because they support the policy currently at the border, which says, come on in. It's like that scene, we're about the same age, 38 or so.
How is it not their making? Biden went into office, he opened up the border. The day he did it, it looked like a parade of people walking across the border. Walking. Because, you know, we have a press secretary that just denies. Like, she's a professional denier. That's exactly what she is.
Ever see 16 Candles?
I have seen it.
All right, and Jake Ryan's cheerleader girlfriend invites everybody back to the house.
Yes.
And everybody just floods to the door.
Yeah,
That's
we're here
basically
now.
the U.S. southern border right now. It's one big 16 Candles party.
I mean, it's so true. And of course, yes, this is their problem. This is of their making. It is, like you said, Sean, of Joe Biden's making. When you do not enforce the laws on our southern border and you essentially invite people in, which is what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done, this is what you get. This is Joe Biden's America. And of course, it is not just contained to places that are physically on the southern border. This is a problem all across America. It taxes all of our systems whenever we have just an influx of illegal immigrants like this. Our school systems, our hospitals, our economy. We cannot sustain what is going on at the southern border, but it's so rich to see these Democrat mayors and you know, governors and whatever it might be all upset about a problem that their guy Joe Biden put in place, and that's why we're here right now. It's outrageous.
But how thin-skinned is it where you get, you know, just a fraction of the people that have come into the country into your sanctuary city, and then you lose your mind? Listen, it tells me these are liars. They really don't want to be sanctuary cities. They really don't want these folks to come into our communities.
You mean it was all about optics, Sean? Of course.
Right, but it also goes back to this idea that, listen, we want to defund the police, but just not in my neighborhood.
Yes.
I want to defund your police, not mine. I want to have open borders, but just not in my city. I want it in your city. It's outrageous policy. And again,
exactly. Let's invite millions of illegal immigrants into the country, unvetted, unvaccinated, no papers, and defund the police, and then wonder why crime is out of control. You go to downtown Philadelphia, it looks like a zombie apocalypse. It's literally a dystopian society. That's what we're living in. That's Joe Biden's America. And I used to be a Democrat. I was a Democrat all the way up until the first Trump election. I kind of feel like that's what happens in America whenever you're younger. You tend to be Democrat because you want free shit. You haven't worked for anything yet. You don't understand that life is work. And if you want to get anywhere, you have to work. So you tend to be more Democratic because you want free shit. And that's what the Democratic Party promises. But as you age and, you know, you work for a living and you start to acquire things and you start a family, most people tend to start switching towards the Republican Party. Now, when Donald Trump came up for election and they started attacking him, and when just a few months before he was literally the pinnacle of success, starring in rap videos and, you know, on all the late night shows, and then now all of a sudden he's the enemy and he don't know anything and this, that, and the other, and he's too inexperienced, and, you know, I knew chances are he was probably trying to do something good for the country. The fact that he was a billionaire already put it in my head that, you know, he has everything he could ever want. He literally has skyscrapers, you know. They're not going to be able to buy him off. And that seems to be what happened. And that's why all these politicians hate him and don't want him in power. It's because they can't buy him off and they can't control him. So therefore, he is an enemy. Because he don't swim with the current. And it's crazy with these sanctuary cities pushing people out when, you know, that's literally what they're there for. And then they go and do the same thing they were accused Governor Abbott over. So, I don't know.
Brilliant policy because he's gotten under the skin of these liberal mayors.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he is definitely wins the very smart and very shrewd award because he has these mayors completely on the defensive and actually is getting this into the news cycle now. So.
I get the dumb award on that one. Like, that's a dumb policy. Governors, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, oh.
I'm glad you're big enough to admit it.
I am. I have broad shoulders.
Yeah, they don't feel the Biden administration is listening to them, these Republican governors, but maybe the administration, the thought is, will listen to these Democratic mayors because they're not getting through.
But isn't it fascinating how they're gonna blame the governors and not Joe Biden? I mean, it's fascinating that they'll just pivot the blame and we're too dumb to get it.
Well, where is Joe Biden?
Where is he? In the basement or in
Who knows?
Exactly. Joe Biden's hiding behind his wall he just had built. The hypocrisy is so blatant. If you can't see it, it's because you don't want to.